How you doing today? Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome to another episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone, and you can find me on my Instagram at yerp_ATL. You can also find me on my Twitch if you like live video game playing, what I do, at twitch.tv/YerpNationGaming.
And I am Devin. You can find some of my writing at geeksleeprepeat.com. You can also find me right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions. And you can find me on Instagram at DevinHarris29.
Cool. Check it out, people. We got a good episode for you today. We are going to be talking about two movies that recently came out. And we're definitely going to be talking about one of the biggest shows recently that dang near breaks Disney Plus. But we're going to start off right now with Coming to America.
Go child support for 30 years and you came back? You was a dummy.
First movie, a lot of the stuff that we already know, it is baked into our mind about, sexual chocolate and that boy good. And the barbershop guys. All of that stuff that's from the first movie is in this movie, but I'm going to be honest with you. Be as honest with you, my brother, and honest with the audience. I didn't dig this movie so much. And the reason being about this movie I didn't dig it, it's like I digged the comedy aspect of just straight up jokes and stuff like that. But if you're going into this movie and you're watching it and you're thinking you're going to find the same type of magic of what produced that first movie, you're not going to find it in here. One, it's not even rated R. It's rated PG-13. Okay, and it has to be because of this climate that we have, that the PC culture, and which is not a bad thing, but it's not the same of what it once was. The jokes, some of it landed for me, but a lot of it, to me, when it comes to the movie, it's like it's cringe, and it comes off kind of cringy in some ways. A majority of like the whole movie is like, remember this?
Well, yeah, that's my problem with a lot of modern movies, just like general like movies that come out today. It's I've heard someone call it member berries, where everyone's like, oh, remember this, where they're not actually telling a story. But to actually talk about the story of this film, this story picks up like 30 years after the first one, and Prince Akeem suddenly becomes King Akeem in what I think is a pretty funny way. I thought that was probably the best stuff of how his father passes away exactly the way he wants to pass away. It's just as dramatic as you'd expect, a king to go out. He becomes King Akeem, and you're talking about PC culture and things like that. I don't know if I agree with that, but they do talk about the traditional role of a woman and traditional role of a man, and whether or not those traditional roles mean much of anything today. So the inciting event is that King Akeem does not have a prince, so he does not have a son who would be the king after him, and a rival, who is played by Wesley Snipes. He sees this as a weakness, so he says he's going to attack if he doesn't have a rightful heir. Now, King Akeem has lots of daughters who are more than equipped to rule Zamunda, but because they're not men, it's seen as a weakness. And this is something that is played up in the film, and I don't find that particularly PC-ish though. I don't think that's like
that. That's not what I was referring to when it comes to PC. I was referring to like the whole bathroom scene where it was different from the first one to now. That they're putting in the things about the preacher. I mean, I understand. I'm not against it or anything like that. It's cool for his daughter's, spoiler alert, on this one. So no, I'm not gonna spoil it. No, not gonna spoil it. But by the end of the movie, the picture gets off what it's intending, what it wants is it gets off by its point. Which I have no problem with that. It's just that how the PC culture affects the jokes of the movie. It's just. It was like, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's PC culture. I think they wanted to appeal to a wider audience with a PG-13 film. And
did you say wider?
Wider.
W-I-D. Okay.
Whiter too, but wider. I think they want to appeal to a wider audience with a PG-13 film. Now, rated R movies, don't make a lot of money, and when they do, it's pretty rare. So they probably made a strategic decision to make this PG-13 and cut all the nudity and the crassness out, so they can appeal to more people. And actually, I think in some ways, minus the bathroom scene where you're talking about, in some ways it kind of works because they go back and they at one point in the film they go back to New York, and New York 30 years ago was rougher and meaner and scarier, and today New York is like Disneyland. It's nothing like the New York of old. All the rough edges have been sanded down, and I think that is kind of similar to the movie in that all the rough edges of the original film, like you said, have been sanded down to appeal to more people.
Right. Well, yeah, it's fine. And maybe because I came into this movie with expectations, and
of course, everybody does. Everybody does because this movie, everyone's wanted this sequel, for 30 years. And they even make a joke in the film about sequels to movies that people don't want to see anymore. And exactly. I thought the joke was corny. I thought it was lame, and I kind of rolled my eyes at it. But it is kind of a meta moment where the movie acknowledges what it is.
You know what I thought that was lame? Not the actual the funeral that King wanted, which was awesome. Right. That he wanted to basically see his own death. I mean, not his own death, but his own funeral and everything. Which was sermon by the great Morgan Freeman. Right. It's just how they took songs and they remixed them into being something else, and then when the coronation of the wedding between the prince and the introduction between the wedding and the girl, whatever her name was, Wesley Snipes' daughter. When homie came up, started rapping like he's Corbin.
That was awful. See,
I was like, what are you doing?
That's my problem with the film. It was the music. This film is like a musical.
I give you En Vogue.
They break out into song so often. I was kind of shocked by how much there was music in this. It's like you'll just be watching the movie, and then Salt and Pepper would just show up and start rapping, and you're like, oh, okay, so we're stopping to listen to Salt and Pepper, and it's like, okay, and then they'll stop that, and then boom, Gladys Knight or something like that will show up, and it's like, what? And she'll have a song, and then everyone has a song. It's like a musical. I thought was jarring and strange, and that's got nothing to do with the PG-13 rating. That's just tacky. I was like,
that's very tacky. And she was singing. She changed the words from Midnight Train to Georgia to Midnight Train from Cebu. Yeah.
I cringed into the next dimension. That was awful. I was like, what is happening? That was rough, man. That was a tough one.
Prepare the royal jet. We are going back to America. Oh, hell no.
They didn't spend that much time, which I expected it. They didn't spend time in America that much. It was only 2 times that they cut to the scenes of America, which was probably lasted 10 to 15 minutes each in each scene where they cut to America. And the rest of it was in Zamunda. You might as well say Prince in Zamunda.
It really wasn't even in Zamunda. It was in Zamunda, yes, but it was mostly just in the palace. So
in the palace,
a lot of that made the movie feel small. It made it because it all happened pretty much in one house. It's it made the movie feel not as epic or
big.
Yeah. The first one felt big. It felt like there was this guy who was from across the world who came to a whole new land. This just felt like it felt smaller. It didn't feel as big. And I thought it was weird that when they came to New York looked suspiciously like Atlanta. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. You're in New York and you're from Atlanta, and I live in Atlanta. I've never been to New York, but I'm pretty sure that Peachtree don't look like downtown Manhattan.
No, it doesn't.
So that kind of just threw me off a little bit there. But I can say that from the performances that's in the film, I liked Arsenio Hall. Yep. He did a really good job. I like that they did bring back Sex and Chocolate. That boy is good. You know what I'm saying? Sex and Chocolate. Brought him back. And the preacher is back in this. They have a new character, the voodoo doctor, whatever he was. What was
I don't know. Yeah, it's like he kind of reminded me of like Rafiki from Lion King.
Yeah, but a little bit more dirty.
Yeah, like a dirty Rafiki.
And my mom, I watched it with my mom and my stepfather, and they saw him. My mom was like, I was like, yeah. That is kind of. They did some real good prosthetics on them, and they actually made them look older than the dudes in the barbershop. They made them look older than where they already were old in the original movie.
Right.
You know. So it was really good seeing that aspect of the movie. But overall, I kind of feel it was mediocre to me, and I'm going to give this 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't know. With everything considered about this film, like the 30-year build-up, a sequel to a film that they probably should have made the sequel at least 25 years ago. So with all of that in mind, and the fact that Eddie Murphy is no longer on top of his game anymore, he's not on top of his game. He's no longer on top of the world anymore. Same with Arsenio Hall, who's at the time in the first Coming to America. Those are the two biggest stars in Hollywood. Now they've kind of vanished from the American zeitgeist. But all of that considered, I think we could have gotten a much worse film. So I was kind of surprised that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. I was expecting a train wreck. I went into this thing thinking, oh, this is going to be absolute trash. But there was actually a story. It wasn't a very good story. It was a very thin story. But there was a story. And the story they were trying to say something about masculinity, about how fragile it can be. And I think a lot of this was personified by Wesley Snipes' character. And they're trying to say something, and that's not common. A lot of movies don't even attempt to say anything. So I'm kind of grading this on a curve a bit. I did not enjoy the movie, but I am surprised that it was more competent than I expected it to be. So I would probably give it out of 10. Yeah, I'd probably give it a 6 or 7. Yeah, maybe 6.5. Yeah. If it's a good movie to have on in the background while you're vacuuming the floor, that's the kind of movie it is.
Exactly. But if you want to actually sit down, pay attention, and get those laughs of the old, ladies and gentlemen that views us, just watch the first one over and over again. It's a classic. Keep it in your top 5, top 10 of comedy.
But also because this is the comedy, I can't say it's bad because it kind of depends on your taste. Like if you like this kind of comedy, exactly, it's super subjective. Because if you like this kind of comedy, then you'll probably love this movie. It'll be great. But if this is not your brand of comedy, then you'll probably take it or leave it. And if you're expecting something harder, something raunchier like the original, that's not going to be here. It's the rough edges have been sanded down.
Exactly. So you give it a 6.
6.5.
This man's been my reverend since I was a little boy, and I love him dearly. You're a very special man, Reverend Brown.
Oh, but I have to say that someone from our high school worked on this film. She was credited. Do you remember Soraya Billingsley?
Yes, I do.
Yes. So she was. I'm gonna double check because I had to jot it down. I saw.
Okay.
She is credited as the stock costumer, which I think is freaking awesome. She's got a credit in the film.
Awesome.
So I couldn't help but just like look at the costumes and stuff like that, which I thought were really good. So hey, shout out to Soraya.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, shout out to Soraya, man. That's good, man.
Yeah.
Always like people who we've known to be coming up in the world, man. That's dope.
So it's like we have a little bit of a connection to this film. It kind of sucks that I thought the movie wasn't that great. That's not her fault or anything like that. But
that's not her fault.
That's right.
There you go.
Let me hear you say, "Hey, ho."
Hey, ho.
No, don't do that. That's his mother.
Oh, don't you say it.
No, not to his mother.
Now, on to the next subject here, or next topic, next movie is is a movie that probably should have never happened. It probably should have never happened. It is Tom and Jerry the movie, now on HBO Max.
We could hire an exterminator, or we can leverage millions of years of predatory evolution.
Cat named Tom, mouse named Jerry. They don't like each other. They're trying to kill each other and do all the antics and stuff. And I believe this cartoon's been out since like the late 40s, early 50s. And, Fred Quimby is one of the original producers on this. And I liked all those Fred Quimbys, man. I loved it all. But when it started getting into the 70s, when it produced by, I forgot the last name of this guy, but his first name was Chuck. I didn't like that. I didn't like it. It was just I didn't like the art style of the cartoon when it went into the 70s. And I never really watched any of the other incarnations of it from the 80s and 90s and whatever the movies they had them and Scooby-Doo together or whatever it may be. I decided to jump back into this when I found out that the movie was coming out. And I gotta say, this is the blackest Tom and Jerry that they come out with.
Blackest.
Because I say the blackest because if you want to label the term of blackness, because in the beginning, spoiler alert, in the beginning of this movie, it takes place in New York. Everything takes place in New York.
You can't spoil this movie. You can't spoil it. Nothing happens. Nothing happens in this movie.
Absolutely nothing happens in this movie. But it stars. It's supposed to star Tom and Jerry. But it stars Chloe Grace Moretz, Michael Pena, and basically Chloe, she is wanting to get a job at this hotel, and Jerry is in this hotel. He wants to live in this hotel, and Tom comes to the big city because he wants to be a famous pianist and to play with John Legend of all people. and of course the antics start happening within a park and all this stuff. They start, trying to chase each other and things like that. And Chloe Moretz, great, whatever her name is, Chloe Grace Moretz. Yeah, I just said her name. She, her task when she gets into this hotel, and she actually lies her way into the hotel. If this is a movie that's presented to kids, really shows them something about lying,
right.
and it's not in a good way. And it's basically say, hey, you can cheat your way to the top. It's stupid. And her task is, when she gets hired, is to get Jerry out of this hotel. Now, let me go back to the whole black thing. When I say the first thing that happens in this movie, when it comes on, they play A Tribe Called Quest. Is it Can I Kick It?
Yeah. Can I kick it? Yes, you can.
And it's the pigeons that's doing it. I was like, okay, I like it, but I didn't expect to see it as much as it came through.
It's interesting. I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's interesting you mentioned that it's the blackest Tom and Jerry. This movie is directed by Tim Story, who is, of course, a black guy, and he played one of the pigeons in the movie. So it's interesting. It's interesting that you picked up on that. But please go ahead.
I picked up on that. super early because Tim Story, he directed the Barbershop movies. He directed the Fantastic Four movies, the first two. Not that atrocity that came out after that. We know that. So yeah, you know he's gonna bring some flavor in this. Now, let me tell you about a funny part that I appreciated that I did not see coming. Jerome in this movie is Jerry. That's Jerome is Jerry is short for Jerome, which I did not know.
that's like canon though. I think it's always been Jerome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just it slips my mind. And Jerry was taking a shower in this movie, and Chloe comes up there and knocks on his door. You know, this man opens up this mouse opens up the door with his hair wrapped and a towel around his waist, and steam is coming out of his bathroom. And what do they play? They play Jodeci in the background. Jodeci.
Yeah,
Jodeci is playing in this mouse's room.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, man. Are you serious?
Yeah, it's kind of funny that we're talking about this after Coming to America, because just like in Coming to America, there's like a lot of needle drop moments. There's like a lot of songs that, like pop songs that you might recognize. They'll just pop up like randomly. And you're right, a lot of them are like R&B songs or hip hop songs. They just pop up randomly. Now this movie,
yeah.
To me, I thought this movie was bad, but I think it's only bad because I'm an adult. If you're a kid, and I'm talking a little kid, if you're like over 10, no. But if you're a little kid, I think this movie might be okay. Because when I first clicked on the movie to play it, I was shocked and appalled at the runtime. This movie is an hour, 41 minutes long. For a Tom and Jerry film, that's long. I thought to myself, why does this movie have to be this long? And there are whole scenes that could be cut out of this film. This movie doesn't need to be longer than an hour. Now, I think the reason why it's so long is because this movie is a kid bomb. Your parents, you put it on because mom and dad, they want to go take a shit or take a shower or whatever, and they just need you to shut the F up for 2 hours. So they put on this movie. It'll distract the kids for almost 2 hours, and you'll have some peace in your house. But the adult does not stick around to watch. That's why it's a bomb. You throw the bomb and you run. The adult does not watch this movie, because as an adult watching the film, I thought it was interminable. This movie wouldn't end. It just kept going. So as an adult, I don't think this is a good film, but if you're a kid or if you've got kids, perhaps this might be a good movie to like distract them with.
Yeah, exactly. It's only a good film to me to distract them with when it's the parts where Tom and Jerry is on the screen, because majority of the time they're not there. The majority of the time you just see this whole thing about Michael Pena wants to get Chloe's character out of there because he feels she doesn't deserve to work there. And then the whole thing is revolving around this wedding. You know, it's like, it's a Tom and Jerry movie. Just have Tom and Jerry. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Even when Tom and Jerry are on the screen, I thought it was tonally strange because Tom and Jerry, they've kind of got like this Three Stooges thing going on where they like hit each other and stuff like that and slam each other around. And they fall from incredible heights and survive it. But the tone of the movie is not quite like that. So the first time it happened, Tom gets his head knocked in. I'm like, holy shit, it was jarring. And then his head pops out because he's a cartoon and it's fine. But I was like, that was violent. That was some harsh stuff. That I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is Tom and Jerry. But I kept having to do that in my head. So Chloe Grace Moretz would, be having a scene or whatever, and then Tom would walk in and like an iron would slam on his face and burn it. And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. This is not the tone kept shifting to me. And when you add in like the cartoon violence, I thought it was kind of jarring. I was kind of thrown off by it.
Yeah. And if you look at how the older cartoons like the older Tom and Jerry's. It had the same thing, but the tone was the same because all of it was just a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was no humans.
Exactly.
There was no humans.
If a human was there, like there's that old, what's that? No, I think that was Tweety Bird. Yeah, there's no humans, and so everything was kind of.
If there were humans, they were animated, and you only saw their legs.
Exactly. It kind of came and went. But here, the humans are here. They've got a big presence, but they're also limited by regular real world physics. And in real world physics, getting hit by a truck would kill you. But this happens to Tom and Jerry all the time, and I found it to be jarring. It felt more violent than they intended it to be, which to me it shows that there was a disconnect here. Something funky is going on because they couldn't keep the tone consistent. And I compare that to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which also had that kind of a deal going on, except the tone in Who Framed Roger Rabbit was considerably darker. It was much darker. So when violent things happened, right, it was seen violent. It was violent. But here in this movie, when violent things happen, for some reason no one reacts, and it just feels strange.
Yeah. It's. I think when it comes to the writers and also with the direction from Tim Story, it was like trying to balance that out. It's damn near impossible.
Yeah, it didn't mesh well. I will say that the animation looked good because the animation, Tom and Jerry, they are CGI characters, but they're made to look like they're 2D hand-drawn characters. And so I thought that was kind of clever. I thought that I could see people using that kind of art style in the future for other things, because I thought they looked good, because they still, like when it rained on Tom, the beads of rain would roll off in a logical way, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So he was CGI, but he didn't look CGI. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and every animal, every insect, everything in the movie was a cartoon, right. And everything else around it.
I was trying to figure out like the rules of this world. I'm like, why are some things cartoons and some things not? But yeah, I think it's just the animals. If you're not a human, you're animated. Even like animals in the background, like you mentioned earlier, the pigeons. There was a shot of somebody just holding their dog, and the dog was animated. He didn't say or do anything. He was just animated.
The horse.
Yeah, the horse. Mm-hmm.
Spider. Yeah. The spider that waved at Tom.
That's right. That was weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of give this movie a 5 out of 10, mainly because I give it a 5 because of the music. and I like the music that was in it. But I just cannot get with the world that they had them in. It's just did not connect with me.
Well, that's really nice of you. I would have never given this movie a 5. I think I would give, as an adult, I would give this movie like a 2 or a 3. I thought it was awful. I kept having to pause the movie and just walk around. It was so. There's a scene in the film where Tom and Jerry, they are supposed to try and get along, and so we see them like running around New York and going on hijinks. It was so pointless and so long. I just was like, can we end this? That whole sequence could have just been cut, and we could have cut 20 clean minutes out of this movie, but nope. It kept going, and I had to pause the movie. I had to get up and walk around. I was looking at my watch. I was looking at the progress bar to see how much more of this film I had left. And honestly, I was pissed off at you. I was like, "What, Tyrone? Made me watch this bull."
Because it's for the people.
But see,
it's not just for us.
See, like a kid's movie doesn't have to be bad. Like when you look at like a movie like Shrek, even like freaking Shrek or like Frozen, right? There are things in those movies that adults can hang on to because like a story. There are things there that adults can enjoy. There's nothing here for an adult to hang on to. I mean, if you like Chloe Grace Moretz, I mean, I guess that's nice, but she doesn't really do much. She doesn't have much to do, and she's acting against nothing because Tom and Jerry are obviously not real. If you like Michael Pena, I mean, he's not really giving much to do either. There's even what's his name, Ken Jeong. He's hilarious and he's in here. He's got like 2 scenes. He does nothing. and he walks off.
Right. I totally forgot he was.
Yeah, because he didn't need to be. So
know?
it was just a waste. I did not enjoy this movie, and I think the only reason why you would ever watch this is if you've got kids and you got to go to the bathroom and you got to take a massive dump and you just need them. You need the kids to leave you alone.
Wait, you got to take a massive Zack Snyder, right?
Yeah. Like this.
Like that.
Yeah, take one of those.
If you guys want to know where that comes from, go watch the previous episode where we talk about the Justice League and the Zack Snyder.
If you gotta take one of those, then this is great to distract your kids so you can go take care of whatever you gotta take care of. But if your kids are over like 9, they'll be bored just like you'll be bored. There's no story. There's no nothing here, and I don't think saying, oh, it's a kids film, therefore it doesn't need a story. I don't think that passes muster. This movie is just dull, and I don't understand the point of making this movie other than just cash in on Tom and Jerry. And do they make money? I don't even know.
I don't know. It probably was like a project of love. Maybe the writers and Tim Story loved the character so much that they wanted to do something with that. I mean,
if they love this character, if they love these characters that much, they should have cut this movie down to like an hour, because that's really all you need to tell this story.
True.
But this thing went on for an hour 45. It's so long.
Tim Story didn't have a story.
No, he did not. And I don't think he really cared either. It's probably hard for him to shoot it because, again, Tom and Jerry aren't there. So he was probably just shooting, what they call plates, these like empty scenes that are slightly out of focus. He probably just shot that for a long time. I imagine that's boring. And I can tell that no one here was really enjoying themselves. Chloe Grace Moretz, she did her best, but what can you do? This movie's not that great.
Just do what you can do.
Yeah, that's what she did.
Before we get to our next subject here, I just want to remind people that's watching this video, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, if you want some good talks about movies and games and all that, please subscribe to this channel. There's more to come. Our next and final topic of this episode is WandaVision, which sounds like Wonder Woman.
What are we looking at here? Is it an alternate reality, time travel?
It's a sitcom.
Starring 2 Avengers?
It's a working theory.
So, we're talking about the series finale, which is ironically the name of this final episode for this season or series, called the season finale of WandaVision. And I'm gonna right off the bat tell you what I give the episode rating wise. It is an 8 out of 10. Okay, I give the series a 7 out of 10. Okay,
wow,
now
that's nice.
See, he's like, you're being so nice.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, my grade scale is different than his, people. So my about this series finale, I knew that they were gonna come in and have the most epic fights you can have. There was a T-100 moments with White Vision and regular the Vision that was made from Wanda.
Do you mean T-1000?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm a dork for Terminator, but please continue.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. I knew they were gonna come with the action, but just the story, man, it's just like they just wrapped up things so quickly.
Oh my god, so fast! I was like, "Oh, we're done." And that's kind of yeah. They were like, we're done. Goodbye. I was like, "Oh, the show's finished." So that's kind of my problem with this episode. Is in the last episode of Most Wrong Opinions, I said I trusted Marvel. I thought we were going to go somewhere, and I thought it was paying off, right? I was kind of surprised that the somewhere we were going was like an air fight. Like it kind of went down to like this like flying around CGI fight, which I was bored. I hate that kind of stuff. That's the worst of like superhero things, like flying fights. Oh my god, I could not believe that all this clever things with the 50s TV shows and the 70s TV shows and all this talk about like television tropes got thrown out the window so we could have like some flying fights. We had two of them. We had a flying fight between two Visions, and we had a flying fight between Wanda and Agatha. I was really shocked by it. And last episode I said that I thought they paused the show to like have this exposition dump. Well, now that I've seen the rest of it, they didn't pause it. It was over. They were done. They were finished. They gave us a quick exposition dump to wrap things up, and here's the big fight, and it's over. I thought something more clever was going to happen. I was really surprised. I think this show, or at least this episode, was like an excuse to give Vision a new costume and to give Wanda a new costume, because those were like the main things. Well, Vision turned white, and Wanda got a costume, which I really like, but a costume more like her comic book costume, and that's really it. It kind of ended in the same spot with Wanda alone, still grieving the death of Vision.
But now the difference is that everyone can see and know what she's done, and that's it.
Right, but see, she was already kind of on the fence for the public, right? Because in Age of Ultron,
she went over the fence now.
Well, I'm saying in Age of Ultron, people were like, oh, they didn't trust her because she accidentally blew up that embassy. And so she was already like kind of like the Dark Avenger, and now that she's pretty much enslaved an entire town, she's definitely the Dark Avenger. But that's not a change. That's really the same spot she was in before. So I was kind of surprised that we did this. Really, it felt like there was two shows here. One was longer and denser, this whole thing with the sitcoms, and then the other part, which was only 2 episodes, which was, I don't know, about air fights and witches, and I thought that was the least interesting part.
It was about as fast as a scorpion. Get over here!
It was quick.
That's how fast it was.
It was quick.
But yeah, man. You know, one of the things that just kind of weirded me out about it, when they were when Vision and Vision was fighting, they stopped. And then he's like, I'm here to kill Vision. And he's like, but I'm not the real Vision. And then he was like, say what?
Right.
talk, explain yourself.
See, I like that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he explained himself and stuff, and then it's like, okay, and then he pressed the button on his head, and then all the stuff that Hayward blocked that was in his data, the fake Vision unlocked it for the real Vision. He's like, I am Vision. He flies off, and you don't see him for the rest of the.
Right. Again, it all they did was really just bring back Vision and give him a new costume. I'm sure the next time we see him, he's gonna hit the shop and he's gonna have different colors. He's not gonna be all white anymore.
Yeah.
So
that paint shop.
They just, I'm glad to see Paul Bettany still in the Marvel universe, right? Because they killed Vision. So I'm glad he's still here. But I agree with you. He just kind of flew off, and it felt a little unsatisfactory. But at the same time, I do think if there were 2 Visions fighting, I do think they would have like an intellectual conversation. That felt correct to me. I'm like, yeah, okay. They wouldn't have an air fight and just punch each other to death. I think they would like stop and have like a philosophical standoff.
I was thinking, and I was watching some other reviews on it, right? a lot of people was thinking that they were gonna fuse, like Goten or something like that, you know.
Fusion.
Well, they thought they were gonna do that. People thought they were gonna fuse together.
Well, they did kind of fuse in that the fake Vision unlocked the real Vision's memories, so he's essentially the Vision that we know, right? He's not like a different Vision. He's essentially just downloaded all his information, so he's like, they did kind of fuse.
Yeah, but if you took out the whole download,
What?
I'm a computer. Stop all the downloading.
people thought that, well, it wouldn't even make any sense if they did it that way, because the Vision that Wanda created, if that actually did happen, that they fused, he still wouldn't be able to get back anything, whatever his memories was, because that Vision didn't know nothing until Darcy came in there and told him everything.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Right.
So it'd just be that Vision getting his actual physical body back by fusing. That's all that is, if they did that. But now I do think that they did it the right way about downloading the information to him. I just didn't like how he just jetted.
Yeah. He's gonna show up in another Marvel movie. So.
Yeah.
But you know, I have to say, sorry to cut you off, but like,
no, you're good.
This show was affected by COVID protocols. So parts of the show may not have been filmed, or may have been filmed differently, because COVID really started to hit when they were shooting this. So I don't know if maybe some of the feelings that we both sense of the show being rushed. I don't know if that's because there were some real world logistical issues that stopped things. I don't know, but what we got, I agree, it was rushed and strange, and characters did just like you said, just fly off so we could find them again later.
So let's talk about the two end credit scenes. The first end credit scene was with what's the FBI? What's his name? Jimmy?
No, Jimmy Woo. Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Woo, yeah. He's orchestrating things, getting everything back together, and Monica Rambeau comes up and says, "Oh, you're handling everything right." And then this FBI agent comes over and says, "Hey, can we have a word with you in the theater? Someone wants to talk to you." So she walks into the theater, and then she gets down there and chills. And then all of a sudden, that female FBI agent turns into a Skrull. If you know the Skrulls, that's from Captain Marvel. And she says that you've been grounded. She said you've been grounded, right?
Something like that. Yeah. And ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter. What happens is she's going to go to space to be with Nick Fury. It's again, this is kind of the things that I don't like. I hate this kind of like lame set dressing. I want to talk about like the story at hand. I don't care what happens in the future. If it happens in the future, tell me in an interesting way. Don't just shove it into here. Like, I don't care. I didn't like. I thought
that's what's coming next.
Yeah, it's like great. Oh my God, is Nick Fury gonna show up in a future movie? It's like, I know. That doesn't do anything for me. So I know it's supposed to be exciting and like, oh, what's gonna happen in the future with Nick Fury? But we already knew he was in space. And we know Sam Jackson's gonna show up again, so I don't know. I didn't care.
He's not how gonna surprise. I don't know. We'll be like, surprise, motherfucker, I'm here.
Surprise, motherfucker.
We know this.
I know.
You know, but the second end credit scene is where it pans out to this beautiful mountain, and it's like a whole bunch of evergreen trees, and Wanda's alone in a cabin, and you first see this Wanda herself, and then you see go in the back room, and she's reading the damn evil book and stuff that no one wants her to read, that apparently that book gave Ghost Rider his powers, right?
Okay, I didn't know that.
That's what I've heard, that Mephisto, the devil, he gave him his powers from that book, you know, to save his father, but he lied, of course. And she's reading this, and it's like she's projecting herself outside, and
she's doing an astral projection, so very similar to how Doctor Strange does.
Yeah, it's really cool. Which, by the way, which is funny when you say Doctor Strange, not funny, but when you say Doctor Strange, Agatha, when she was on top of the roof, she said that you're more powerful than the Supreme. Mm-hmm. Sorcerer Supreme. I'm like, damn. Okay.
Well, she is in the comics,
right?
So.
And so she hears her kids screaming in the background, which could be a trick. I don't know. Or it could I think that she's actually trying to find a way to bring her family into reality and not do that. But the thing is like, if you wanted them back, why don't you just create a bubble out there when you ain't gotta hurt nobody? Ain't nobody out there in that wilderness. You want them back. You want your family back. You can just do that again and get Vision back, and no one's there. It's just y'all.
That's true.
Y'all can roughing it out.
Vision. That's actually a good point. Because Vision and her kids were not like people she enslaved. That was people that were just she pretty much made those people out of nothing.
Yeah, you're in the middle of nowhere, and there's a lake right here, and you got a cabin, and it's like, why are you looking to bring them back? And I'm thinking possibly that's what she's trying to look through the book for. Yeah. And then you could just do that just now. No one's here.
Right.
You got nothing for miles. So.
Yeah, it seems like I said earlier, the point of this show was to update everyone's costumes, and it seems like a soft reboot, the softest of soft reboots of Wanda's powers. Because Wanda's powers have always been a problem with me, because she has been, or she is typically depicted as one of the most powerful mutants and Avengers in the comics, because she can literally rewrite reality. But in the movies, her powers were essentially lifting heavy things and shooting red lasers. And so I guess they seem to be like undoing some of the lifting heavy things and shooting red lasers to actually some of her like reality bending powers, which I guess is cool. But I think you could have done that. First of all, they didn't really get around to doing it until late in the series, right. And then I think they could have done that more in a movie or something. And something it could have just been like a scene in a movie. I don't know. I really didn't like how the series concluded. Also, the series the series was interesting in that it shows that Marvel knows what we want, and they don't want to give it to us, and it's very interesting. So they know we want to see the X-Men show up. They know we want to see a crossover potentially with Fox's mutants. Well, they know that, and they're playing with it with the whole Pietro thing. But they didn't give it to us. They very explicitly said that Pietro was fake. That guy was an actor or just some random guy who was enslaved. They were very explicit that this was not a crossover. But they toyed with us for weeks, pretending like it was, which is I feel that's a little unusual. I can't think of another time when Marvel so explicitly toyed with your expectations like that.
Yeah, I think because it's in a realm of TV, maybe they felt like they had to. And then you have like, you really don't have to do none of that. You can just put out, just go ahead and just give us what we want. But if I'm not mistaken, what gave Ralph Boner, that's his name, what gave him his powers was the necklace, right? Is that what gave him his speed powers?
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed to be like, I think if I'm interpreting Agatha's power set right, she's not as powerful as Wanda. So I think in order for her to like enslave someone like that, I think she needed an object in order to bewitch this guy Ralph Boner, and I think the object was the necklace. And I think that's all it was. I don't think that's how. I think they never really explain the power, how she can imitate the powers. I don't know.
Not him. Oh, how she can imitate his speed.
Yeah, I don't. They never. I don't think they ever really explained that. I think the necklace was just Agatha's way of copying Wanda's like enslavement powers or whatever.
Right. Okay. Well. Yeah. That's. I agree with you, man. When it comes to this episode, they rushed it. You know.
Right. And again, I don't know if there are some real world reasons because of coronavirus, or if this was just the weirdest, strangest writing. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But ultimately, like you said, these last two episodes are. We talked about tone earlier. Wildly tonally different than the other episodes. Like this felt like a boilerplate superhero stuff, and to me, that's dull. It's not as interesting.
So what do you give it? I give it an 8 out of 10 for the episode. No, what did I just say? I give 8 out of 10. I got 8 out of 10 for the episode and 7 out of 10 for the whole series in itself.
So I guess I'm backwards in that I thought the series was really good. I still really, really, really liked the first few episodes. I really liked the sitcom thing. I thought that was super clever and super bold for Marvel to even attempt to do that. They don't have to do that.
Agreed.
They could spend the whole season doing this back end stuff with the flying fights and stuff. They don't have to don't have to be this creative. And so I give credit for that. I think that's really clever, and they're telling a really interesting story. And it was a sad story that came to a sad end. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But so I would rate the series higher. I would say the series is probably an 8 or an 8.5. But this episode was maybe like a 6. I didn't like these last 2 episodes. They were.
I got you.
They dragged things down, and I think they dragged the overall series down. I think I would have rated the series higher if it wasn't for the exposition dump from the previous episode, and then the flying fights and all that stuff.
Basil.
Yeah, exactly. The Basil stuff, and all the flying fights and all the setting up for the future, and I don't like that. When Marvel does too much setup for the future, this is where, to me, when they're at their weakest. I don't care. I don't care. If you want to do something cool, do something cool. Don't tease something cool and then not do it. Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah. and then it's not even that cool. It's like, oh, okay, great. Monica Rambeau goes to space. Yes, I know.
That is supposed to happen.
Yeah, great. She even has like her outfit look like a Star Trek outfit already. So I'm like, all right, looks like she's already in space. Fine, okay.
But it's like they're not talking to people like you and me. They're talking to Susie Homemaker that just wants to watch a cool show.
And that's
when it comes to
that's very true. That's a good point. Like, not everybody knows about Monica Rambeau and things like that. But even when, like you said earlier, with that tease, they weren't even so much teasing the future of Monica Rambeau. They were teasing us seeing Nick Fury again. Which, like, yeah, I know Nick Fury's going to show up. So that doesn't do anything for me. I'm not excited. It doesn't get like my imagination going.
And they didn't even pay off. Sorry to cut you off, but they didn't pay off on the astrophysicist. They didn't pay off on that.
They did.
That lady?
Wait, which astrophysicist?
Remember, she's like texting. She's like, "Yeah, I got my friend coming in, the astrophysicist, whatever."
Yeah, it was the woman.
Was that lady?
That's it.
Get the fuck.
See, that's what I'm saying. They're teasing. They know you want to see a Mr. Fantastic or something like, or an Avenger or something. But then it just happens to just be some random lady, right? They know what you want, but they're not giving it to you, which is interesting. It makes me wonder why. Does this mean they have plans? I'm assuming this means they've got plans for these characters coming up. And
why let us dip our big toe in the water instead of us just making it warm so we can just jump in?
I think it's because they think that their idea is better than our fan theories, which is almost certainly true. Hopefully, I think they know our fan theories, and I think they probably think our fan theories are lame. So they've got their own plans, and they're teasing our fan theories. They're like, oh, you think Fantastic Four is going to show up? No. You think the X-Men's going to show up? No. Nope. And so it's interesting that they would do that. Again, it makes me think that they must have some kind of plan, and their plan must be wildly different from what most people think they're going to do.
Got you. Right? That was good, man. So that is it, everyone, for this episode 3 of Mostly Wrong Opinions. We'd like to thank you for clicking on this video. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and you can find me, I'm Tyrone, at yerp_ATL, and I'm a Twitch gamer. You can find me on twitch.tv/YerpNationGaming and on YouTube with the same name, Yerp Nation Gaming.
My name is Devin. You can find me right here on Most Wrong Opinions. You can also find me on Instagram at DevinHarris29, and you can find some of my writing at GeekSleepRepeat.com.
Also, leave a like, or a thumbs down, whatever it is your opinion. But just remember one thing, it's mostly wrong. You guys have a good day. Stay blessed.